Growing up in Las Vegas, Nevada, I had differing friends. Both of my best friends are white Mormon girls, which is interesting when I tell people. It's kind of funny, but they are my best friends and have been for 20 years. And so really for me, it was more unlearning as it relates to the West Coast of what were microaggressions. So I went from Las Vegas, Nevada to completely on the East Coast to Baltimore, Maryland, a historically Black college. And that was a lot for me. I've never been in an urban city when I see all Black people, like Black people working at Target, at Starbucks. It was just new to me. And I was like, oh wow, this is different. And I'm so grateful I went because I got to learn so much about my history and my culture that wasn't really taught to me in the education system. And it's kind of funny, I called my mom one time and I told her, I was like, you did me a disservice not teaching me about Black history. And she was a little offended by it, but it's all right. But yeah, and then really even when I was in college, I still was different. So I still was like the West Coast chick that it talks like a Valley girl and stuff. So, but I got to learn so much. Like I said, African diaspora was a class that I loved and was amazing. It showed me dispersed Africans that I never saw that light ever of Black Americans, not Black Americans, just Black people in general all over. And really, honestly, it came from then working at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and seeing just Black women. It's a small liberal arts, all women college, and seeing them just flourish and grow and support each other. And I thought that was amazing. And then especially going to Coppin State University, which is in West Baltimore, I saw how the socioeconomic disparities and really systemic racism and how that affects even especially the education system in West Baltimore. And that really showed me that, you know, this is different. And then moving back to the West Coast, I thought everything was gonna be the same for me. But it really changed when I was an athlete, you know, and being praised for being intelligent and speaking so well and being athletic. It changed when I became the first Black female volleyball coach at Cal State Fullerton, and just seeing then those small little microaggressions changed my mindset a little bit different. Like they just felt different when they were presented to me, and just like navigating that, like I said, the unlearning of those different things has been my journey. My grandfather, he's retired Los Angeles Police Department. And so he knew early on he had to give the talk as it relates to police and how to act around police to myself and my sister. And I just brushed it off because I was like, I'm never gonna do anything to where the police would stop me. So I'm different, like I'm not gonna get in trouble. And then realizing in my older age of, you are just stopped at times for no reason but driving, or even in situations where they don't know who the victim is and how you may be handled and treated and talked to because of the color of your skin, you know? And I understand, like I said, because my family grew up in law enforcement, I understand everybody just wants to go home, but it seems as though it's heightened as opposed to being more understanding, and police have to make snap decisions. And so even with talking to my grandfather about a situation that happened with me, the first thing I said to him was, Papa, I'm sorry I failed you, because it broke my heart that I know better, right, as it relates to police, and I know how I should handle myself. And I said, I'm sorry for not making him feel comfortable with me. And so think about that, right? I'm sorry for not having him feel comfortable with me. And that hit my grandfather hard when I told him that. And he said, Ashley, you've never really had interactions with police, so I can understand why you feel the way you do right now. But you are also hurting, and you're so concerned about his comfort and his well-being. And so think about yours too. And we had a candid conversation, and that just happened less than a year ago. I have a lot of professional athletes or former professional athletes, especially college athletes in my family. And I've seen how at times the biggest commodity you can be for a Black person is an athlete. And so then in that mindset, then you really see how people treat you different. So you think you're different until you're in a situation where you're deemed as you're just Black. And so it hits people hard when that happens to them because they think athleticism is what's going to make people understand them more. And so it's been fascinating just to see a lot of the athletes now taking stands and using their platform and using their voice. And I think it's beautiful because you're more than an athlete, you know? Like, I'm more than a coach. I'm Ashley Preston, like, no matter what. I have to live in my body, and I want to be comfortable in my body by being seen, heard, and understood. Seeing it was jarring, right? But then I thought, like, oh, it's business as usual. Another Black man gets killed, that's every day. Like, so why is this any different? And then it hit me a lot in being in different Zooms and no one acknowledges what happened. And I'm like, we just saw a man be murdered with a knee on his back. And that's not something that, you know, you just get over, you know? And so it helped me speak up when asked, like, what are your thoughts and what are your feelings? And it helped me be vulnerable with my administration and my colleagues, you know? And I just wanted to make it more humanized. Like, we need to understand each other that just because I'm Ashley Preston, you don't negate, like, my feelings as a Black woman of pain and trauma that goes on in my community, just like I would never negate pain and trauma that goes on in anyone else's community. And so it helped, though, in having conversations with our young women about what would you say to a teammate who's struggling right now? That's how we opened it up. We had a conversation about it, and what would you say to a teammate who's struggling right now? And we did that activity, and I showed them my board, and it says, I see you, I support you, you matter. And so I'm very big about representations of women. And so, like I said, I had to check myself again. I'm like, am I doing a good job by only having my players read books by white men? Like, how can I do better as it relates to educate them on the diverse culture that goes on in America? And so we started a Representations of Women series. And so I was intentional with bringing all different women from different careers in to talk to my young women. And one of the most impactful women of that series was Marilyn Ralston from Project Rebound. And she gave her journey to our young women and what she does in her profession. And what I loved so much that she said how she just wants to help others see the light in themselves from overcoming struggles. And I thought that was so great and so poignant of what's going on today, and I appreciate her so much for giving that talk to my young women. I think it's possible, it's just the vision is hazy. And I think it's possible once we acknowledge that everyone needs a seat at the table. What's happening right now is happening because not everyone's story is told from positions of power. And so I do believe that can happen because I see it in my youth, in the young women that I coach who don't care as it relates to someone being LGBTQ or someone being Asian or Hispanic. And when I mean don't care, they're not going to stop their journey because they are something, you know? And so, yeah, my hope is in educating and teaching the youth. And if we can really figure out how to have everyone have a seat at the table, as well as education reform, I'm very huge about. And so if we can tell more stories in higher ed and in high school and middle school about differing cultures, I think we would have a greater understanding and things like this wouldn't happen. That's our foundation and that's our code, and being your sister's keeper, so being relational, responsible, and respectful. And so no matter And I tell them this all the time. You can be as goofy as you want to be, as silly as you want to be, as quiet as you want to be, as long as you're relational, responsible, and respectful, and as long as you remember to be your sister's keeper. And it's really taken a life of its own, and to see my players talk about it, because they showed it on social media. Two of my players, like Haley Carmo and Gabby Barcelos, gave their opinion of what it means, and really to have it resonate with them of it's something that's good, but it's also something that if I need to have a hard conversation with you, I'm bringing you in and saying, hey, I just want to be your sister's keeper. So I think right now what you're doing isn't right, and it gives them that greater understanding of what that means. And so I love seeing how they're utilizing it and using it for each other. And so yeah, that's what it is, that small little change to make them understand that we have an obligation, not just to ourselves and to our family, but to other people. I just think that if we have better conversations with each other, so if you can listen to my story because it's not your lived experience, I can listen to your story because it's not my lived experience. My life is my own. And so allow me to share that with you. Even if you don't agree, I'm in this body, like you haven't had my experiences, so we can sit at a table and talk and discuss as long as you can hear me and I can hear you.